everybody. We're here from Van Isle Labradoodles today, and we're going to be doing the week 3 update of the cinnamon swirl litter. And if you'll remember from watching our videos previously about this litter, this is a litter of mini multi-generation Australian Labradoodle puppies. And all 3 of the puppies are chocolate phantoms. And 2 of the puppies have lots of white flash on them as well. So today we're going to talk about what's happened in their world the past week and what Hazel is up to. And then we're going to have a little chat about vaccinations, socializing your puppy, and titers. So let's get started with each of the puppies. And today you'll see that they are all a little bit crusty looking, and they have some extra color on them, especially on their heads and their legs. And that's from the pumpkin that they're eating. So they've all started eating quite a bit of solid food. And that solid food consists of goat's milk, pablum, and pumpkin. The pumpkin is there to provide them with some digestive support, and the goat's milk we use because it is the most similar to mom's milk. So they're enjoying that and they're eating really well. This past week they've learned a little bit better about how to actually lick out of the pan rather than walking through the pan and eating the food off one another. So we don't like to bathe the puppies any more often than necessary, and their family visit is coming up this weekend, so we'll wait and bath them for that so that they don't have to have an extra bath. Now first we're going to take a look at Cinnamon Girl here. And Cinnamon is the lightest colored out of all of these puppies. She is a chocolate phantom, and she's what we call a dilute, and that's why her fur is a little bit of a lighter color, because it's a diluted brown. And you can see she's proudly wearing some of her accomplishments by having her food on her face. Now Cinnamon has increased her weight up to 1.4 kilograms for today, so she's doing really well. She nurses well still, but she also is eating out of the pan really nicely. She is the sweetest little girl. She's quite independent right now, but it's a little early to really get too much information on their temperaments. So that's Cinnamon. And then we'll take a look here at our only boy, Mr. Choco. And Mr. Choco is also a chocolate phantom, hence his name. And he does have this just a little tiny smidge of white on his chest. Otherwise, he is the solid chocolate phantom in the litter. And he too is showing you his prowess at eating out of the dish and how he can wear it ever so nicely and look so smart in his pumpkin attire. And Choco has increased his weight to 1.5 kilograms this week. So you'll find that all the puppies here are very close in weight. Choco is a very nice, relaxed, and very quiet boy. You seldom hear him talking, and he is not one to be pushy at the milk bar. Obviously, he's getting his fair share, though. And last but not least is our beautiful dark chocolate phantom girl, whose name is Swirl. And Swirl has lots of white flash on her, and today she's also showing you some of her pumpkin attire. I know, sweetheart. Swirl has the beautiful white markings on her nose and up the middle of her face, and then she has the pretty little bit of splash of white on her neck as well. Swirl now weighs 1.4 kilograms, so the 2 girls are the exact same weight, and really there's only 100 grams difference between all 3 puppies. Swirl is a real soft touch. She's very gentle, she's very kind, and she has excellent eye contact. And you can see she's looking at me quite regularly while we do this little segment here. She's a very intuitive little puppy, very nice little girl. So I'm going to put them down in their bed here and let them play around a little bit. They have one of our toys that all our dogs love. It makes a lovely crinkly noise. It used to have a squeaker in it, but you can see it has a hole in the back now, and that's courtesy of Hazel and Ripple, who like to rip the squeakers out. So that's their contribution to the toys. But the puppies don't mind if it doesn't have the squeaker. They just enjoy having the crinkly sound, and they're all starting to want something to mouth on. Those teeth are starting to come in. Right now it's still lots of fun to be playing with them because the teeth are not through enough where we start to go, oh, ow. So the puppies have done really well with getting onto their solid food. And because we have had them move to that stage, Hazel is back to just having her own 3 puppies with her. The 2 puppies that she was so kind to foster from Breezy's litter have gone back with Breezy now, as they are also all eating regular solid food. So Breezy is able to handle the 11 of them on her own again. So I think Hazel misses the other 2 a little bit, but I think that these 3 are really happy just to have mom all to themselves. Hazel had a visit from her guardians last weekend, and it did her a world of good. She has been much happier, much more content with being a mom, much more confident, and just an all-round smiley girl since she saw her parents. She's much more attentive to the puppies, and she really seems to have settled into her role now at the 3-week mark. So we were really happy that Denise and Jeff could come and visit with her. Sometimes guardian dogs are not too excited to see their parents and really focus just on their puppies. Sometimes they respond overwhelmingly in a positive manner when they see their family, and sometimes they get very sad when they see their family and are still having to stay with their puppies. But in Hazel's instance, it was all a really positive visit. Now you'll see we have the puppies in what we call a donut bed today. And if you watch the week 5 update for the Razzle Dazzle litter, we talk about this type of bed and other beds and crates in a little bit more depth. So that would be a good or a good video rather, for you to check out on YouTube to get some information about the types of beds and the information we have on crate training your puppy. You can see these ones are really interacting with each other now. Normally, of course, they're in a much bigger space, but so we can keep them contained while we do the video, we have them in here. They love these beds because they're nice and soft and cozy. It's a little bit, it mimics a bit being right up next to mom when you're nursing. So young puppies really find this a comforting design and really nice fabric. So on the week 5 video from the Razzle Dazzle litter, you'll find the link to the supplier of these beds, which is Vagabond Pet Supply. And they're Canadian, and they're very well priced, so they're an excellent product. So now what we want to talk about this week is socializing your puppy, their vaccinations, and titers. And we're going to start with titers because many people are not familiar with what titer testing is. So previously what we used to do was we would take our dogs in and they would have their puppy shots, and then after a year they would go back and they would have a booster shot. And that was pretty much par for the course for many years for all dogs, not just Labradoodles, but any type of dog. And as time went on, there were more and more problems that were coming to light that seemed to be attributable to having these annual vaccinations. So some testing was done and some studies were done, and it was discovered that really dogs do not need to have their vaccines boosted every year. Indeed, many of them never need to have them boosted for the rest of their life. Some do. It varies with each dog. So the question became, well, how would you know if your dog does need the booster or not? What is the healthiest option for your dog? So that's where titer testing comes in. A titer is the word that's used to describe immunity. So when we say your puppy doesn't have their full titers yet, we mean that they don't have full immunity to everything yet. Once they've had their 3rd set of shots, then their titers should be intact. So a titer test is a simple blood test that's done, and it will tell you, yes, your dog has good, strong immunity against distemper and parvo. And those are the only 2 things that you need to be checking for, as those are really the only 2 things that we are concerned about in terms of your dog's overall health. And so we'll move into that a little bit now and into vaccinations and what your dog should have and what we recommend and what we feel is unnecessary for your dog. So what we give all of our dogs is a simple 4-way core vaccine, and that is parvo, distemper, adenovirus, and parainfluenza. The parainfluenza is probably entirely unnecessary, but it comes bundled with the adenovirus, so that's why the dogs have that. Parvo and distemper are, of course, the 2 main things we're always worried about with our dogs. So we just give the dogs those 4 vaccines, and they get those 3 times as a puppy. And then when you take your puppy home, we ask you to do a titer test at around the 20-week mark. And the reason we do that is because your puppy comes with lots of strong natural immunity from their mom. They get that from their mother's milk, from the colostrum in the milk. We don't know, and we can't tell how strong that immunity is, and it can vary from puppy to puppy in a litter. So in this litter, one of the puppies might have extraordinarily strong antibodies from their mom, and another puppy might have very minimal antibodies. So what happens when we take our puppies in to have their first set of vaccines is those two can fight each other. So we have the natural antibodies, and then we have the vaccine which is being introduced. And if the antibodies are particularly strong, the two of them can counteract each other, really rendering your dog with no protection at all. If those maternal antibodies stay really strong, they can continue to negate the effect of the vaccine right through the 3rd round of shots. So that's why we want you to go back and check it around the 20-week mark and make sure that the vaccines you've administered have indeed taken effect and that your dog is protected. Now, in our litters, we often have one dog who will have no protection because they had such strong maternal antibodies present. Is it the general rule? No, it's the exception, but it definitely does happen. And we certainly don't want you to think, oh yeah, my dog's totally safe, when indeed they have 0 protection. So that's why we have you go and titer test your dog at that time. And then after that, it's up to you. You can go annually and titer test, or you can go biannually or every 3 years. For us, we test our dogs every 3 years. Our schedule is a little different from everyone else's. We have to figure out when we can do the titer testing in between litters for the dogs so that they're not getting any vaccines within 60 days of being bred. Vaccines are not something you want to be introducing to a dog when it's just about to conceive. So it's a little tricky for us sometimes to get the scheduling right. So sometimes it's every 2 years, but generally speaking, we test every 3 years. Now, in all the dogs that we've had, we've only once ever had to boost a dog, and that was Spirit, and her distemper was a little bit low. Now, chances are the reason for that is because her body didn't need to be making a huge number of antibodies for distemper because it's virtually eradicated in this area. However, we don't want to take that chance, and because she's a breeding girl, we also want to make sure that her antibodies are at the highest level possible, so she passes all of those on to her puppies. So that's how the vaccines and the titers work. Now, the other vaccines that your vet may recommend or you may read about are Bordetella, which is kennel cough. Bordetella is the same as having the flu shot for you and I. It will catch some strains and others it won't catch. So it's rather hit and miss. If you're taking your dog to daycare or if you're taking your dog to a boarding facility, most likely they're going to tell you they want your dog to have a Bordetella vaccine. Otherwise, we don't recommend it at all. We don't give it to our dogs whatsoever. Just like the flu in humans, it can be fatal in very young puppies and very old elderly dogs. Otherwise, it's just like them having a cold, and it's better for them to have the kennel cough and develop their own immunity to it rather than us vaccinating them for it. But as I said, you may be required to have it in some instances. The other thing you may hear about is leptospirosis. Leptospirosis is something that your dog can contract from still standing water, such as a puddle, where there's a lot of wild animals. So if you're an avid outdoors backwoods type person, that's something you might want to consider. It has to be an infected animal peeing in that puddle and your dog then drinking from that puddle for your dog to contract lepto. Lepto is around, it's always around. Many dogs are exposed to it and nothing happens because they have the ability to ward it off. Lepto is a zoological disease, which means it can be transferred from your dog to you. If you get it, it is like having a very mild flu. It's certainly not fatal by any means. We don't vaccinate our dogs for lepto, even though they are in the woods. They're not really back where there's a lot of wildlife. We also keep a really close eye on them, and we wouldn't allow them to drink from a puddle. If you're doing a lot of hiking though, and you're in a remote area and there is a lot of wildlife, if you take your dog hunting, for instance, and your dog's off leash, you may want to consider having a lepto vaccine. And the other one that you're going to hear the most about is rabies. We absolutely encourage you to never have a rabies shot. Rabies is the most difficult vaccine for dogs to deal with. There is a fairly high incidence of permanent neurological damage and even death from the rabies vaccine. It's entirely unnecessary in our area. In Ontario, there is some concerns with rabies, but anything west of Ontario, there are no concerns, and it's not necessary to worry about. It's not a herd disease, so you're not protecting the species overall by vaccinating your dog. Now, we used to always tell people, but if you're going to be traveling to the States, and many of you are lucky and get to go to Arizona or California or drive even to Mexico for part of your winter vacation. And it used to be that you had to have your dog immunized for rabies when you were crossing the border. That has been lifted. You are now no longer required for your dog to have rabies to either enter the US or to enter back into Canada. So we strongly urge you to never have the vaccine for rabies. And the other thing to keep in mind is if for any reason you decide to not follow our protocol and you do want to have some of these additional vaccines, the main thing to remember is you don't do them all together. So we have a schedule that will give you when you pick up your puppy that will outline all of the times when you're going to take your puppy in for their shots. And we have it in there if you're going to do Bordetella or leptospirosis, when those should be introduced as well. And basically what it is you want to allow a good at least 2 weeks between each vaccine. Loading them up and doing them all at once is a very high risk procedure for the dogs. So you don't want to be taking any unnecessary risks. It does mean an extra trip to the vet, but that's better than doing permanent damage or even causing the death of your dog, obviously. So those are the main things to keep in mind when it comes to vaccinations. Now, how does all of this relate to socialization? So many people worry that they can't take their puppy out and do anything with their puppy until they've had all 3 sets of shots. And that's just simply not true. Parvo and distemper, as I said, are the 2 main things that we talk about. And they're really not very common anywhere around in our area. So you want to avoid some high-risk areas. For instance, you're not going to go to the SPCA or any other rescue-type shelter, or places where you know there is a large percentage of opportunity for unvaccinated dogs to be congregating. Otherwise, you can take your puppy out and have them introduced to the world. It's far more important that your puppy has all sorts of new experiences and gets to meet new people and new dogs than worrying about the very slim chance of them becoming ill from something that's not really prevalent at all. So as long as you use common sense, you don't want to go to the dog park, for instance. That's a little bit overwhelming for a puppy on many levels. But sure, you want to take your puppy out and go for a walk around the neighborhood. You want to take your puppy to all the dog-friendly stores, Winners, Home Hardware, Canadian Tire. All of those are all pet-friendly places that you can go to. And those are excellent experiences for your little puppy to go to. You might want to, at first, when you go the first time, put your puppy in the buggy. Just put them in a little soft bed in the buggy rather than having them walk around, so that they feel a little bit safe and secure. And then as time goes on and you have more of these experiences, you can have them down walking on their leash. And the other place that's great, especially here on Vancouver Island, is if you take your puppy to all the farmers markets. A million people will stop and say, "Oh, look at the puppy, oh." And it's great. It's got lots of noises and smells and all sorts of people and dogs for them to meet. So remember, it's really important that you take your puppy out and expose them to as many different positive new situations as you can. And don't worry too much about the fact that they don't have all their shots. Just avoid areas where you know there would be a potential for a problem. It's just common sense, really. And it's the same when you have people coming to your home. If presumably you know them, and I'm sure if they're friends of yours and they have dogs and cats, their dogs and cats are all fully vaccinated and well cared for. Nothing to worry about. But if you have people coming, perhaps who volunteer at the SPCA, or they might volunteer at a rescue organization, those people you want to restrict their access to your puppy. If they are coming to your home, you want them to be wearing clothes that they've not worn to those locations. Jackets stay outside, shoes stay outside, and hands are very thoroughly washed before they handle your puppy. So we have a guardian who volunteers at the SPCA, and she's well familiar with the protocol and takes extra precautions so that when she goes to the SPCA for meetings or anything else, she has a separate set of clothing and shoes that she wears to that don't come into contact with the puppy at all. The puppy now has full immunity, but previous to that, that was what we had her do. So it's really just common sense. And you just want to make sure that they have all the best experiences possible. You don't want to take them to places just for the sake of taking them if they're scared or it's not a good experience, but you do want to make sure that they have all sorts of positive, great experiences. And this all ties into what we do here at Van Isle Labradoodles, and that's what we do when we get our puppy ready for going home with you, is we expose them to people who we are familiar with, who follow that protocol about their clothing and their shoes and hand washing. We have young people, old people, men, women. We have different music. We've got fireworks. We have thunder and lightning, all recorded, of course. All sorts of things and situations that we expose the puppies to regularly. And this is all part of their socialization process. And we also throw things around and make great big noises. We put them on different surfaces. They'll start going outside just shortly after your family visit, and they'll have all sorts of new things to see and explore around with outside. So that's our little topic of socialization for today. We hope you enjoyed your video. If you did, please give us a thumbs up, and we hope that you subscribe to our channel because it's great. You can look at the videos for all of our other litters and get even more in-depth information. If you go back to the Blonde Brownies and the Cafe Noir videos, you'll see that there are segments on socialization there, and there'll be even more useful and helpful information for you on those videos. So it's great to watch them all and be able to gather the knowledge from all of them. And we are really looking forward to our family visit this upcoming weekend. There'll be no video the following week after family visit, so your next update for this litter will be week 5. And thanks so much for watching.